Hello, you're welcome to Skyline Tutorials. This is episode 2 in anatomy series. For this episode, we'll be discussing anatomical position, planes, and sections. So, the objective of this class is to be able to define anatomical position as well as note different anatomical planes and sections. Anatomical position. So simply put, anatomical position is referred to as the standard or universal reference point of description of the different body parts in a particular stance. Anatomical position is a standard reference point in describing the different parts of the body system. Anatomical position is a standard, universal, common. It means it is peculiar to everywhere. Everywhere you go to, it is the same anatomical positioning that is used. If you go to the UK, you go to anywhere, it is the same positioning. That is why they say it is the standard. Okay, so anatomical position is the standard reference point for the description of different body parts in the system. Take note of that. There are different positionings or concepts that must be considered before saying a body is arranged anatomically. The first is that the body must be upright or erect. So, for anatomical positioning, the body must be upright or erect. Next is that the upper limbs must be placed by the sides or laterally. The next is that the palm of the hands faces forward and the thumbs away from the body. The next is that the feet are placed close together and facing forward. So feet are placed close together and facing forward. Okay, so this is it. In anatomical position, the body is upright and erect. The upper limbs must be placed by the sides of the body or laterally. The palm of the hand faces forward and thumbs away from the body, and the thumbs is facing away from the body. Okay, the image you see on your screen depicts the similitude or exactitude of how anatomical position is. So, in studying that image, you should consider all of these factors. So, these are the factors that must be seen in any body, yes, that is anatomically positioned. The next is the feet are placed close together and facing forward. So that's it for anatomical position. Anatomical position helps in the description of body planes. So that will lead us to discussing planes and the different body planes we have in the system. For body planes, they are basically imaginary lines that divide the body. Generally, there are three body planes. We have the sagittal plane, we have the transverse plane, or the axial plane, and then we have the frontal or coronal plane. So generally, we have three planes in the body. I said planes are simply imaginary lines that divide the body. We have the sagittal plane, the transverse or axial plane, the frontal or the coronal plane. So let's look at each individually. Sagittal plane. A sagittal plane is simply any imaginary line that divides the body into two parts, into two left and right parts. A sagittal plane divides the body, that's it divides the body into left and right parts. Take note, under sagittal planes, there are different planes also. We have what we call the median plane. It can also be called the mid-sagittal. So, knowing fully well that a sagittal plane is any plane that divides the body into left and right parts, the median plane is a type of sagittal plane that divides the body into equal left and right parts. So, a median plane is the type of sagittal plane that divides the body into equal. So the underlying key word here is equal. So in the division of the body into left and right, there must be equality in the different parts, in the left and right part. There's an image displayed in your screen that would exemplify a median sagittal plane or a mid-sagittal plane. It divides the body into two equal left and right parts. The next we have is parasagittal. Parasagittal plane. The word para simply means around. You've heard of paramilitary. Are they really military? No, they're around. You've heard of parameter. Parameter. This is the meter, the distance. Para simply means the distance around a shape. You have the building of, you have a building. You look for the parameter, that's the total distance around the building. So the word para simply means around. Okay? Paramedics. Are they really medics? They are fields under or surrounding the medical. So parasagittal plane or paramedian. Paramedian. Paramedian is simply a line that divides the body into two left and right parts. It divides the body into left and right parts, but not equally. Let's use this circle to explain sagittal plane or the different subdivisions of sagittal plane, paramedian and the median plane under sagittal plane. In a circle, we have what we call chord, right? A chord is simply a line that runs from one circumference of a circle to another. So this is a chord, this is a chord. But there is a special type of chord called the diameter. The uniqueness about the diameter is that it cuts the circle into two equal halves. Okay? It cuts the circle into two equal halves. A diameter is a special type of chord that cuts the circle into two equal parts. So we can use this to explain median and paramedian. The median will be seen as our diameter because it divides the body into two equal parts. But the paramedian, it also divides the body, but it is not equally divided. So that is the discrepancy between median sagittal and paramedian. Take note of that. The sagittal plane is any plane that divides the body into left and right parts. Take note of that. Median divides the body into two equal left and right parts. Paramedian divides the body into two parts that are unequal. Take note of that. The next type of plane we have is the transverse plane. Okay, so the transverse plane basically is a horizontal plane that divides the body into the superior part and inferior parts. or into the upper and lower part. So the transverse plane divides the body into the upper and the lower part. It can also be called transaxial, or in short, axial. They are all mean the same. So the exact lining of a transverse plane is in the umbilical. So we would have an image to depict that. So the transverse plane divides the body into two parts, upper and lower parts, or superior and inferior. The next we have is frontal or coronal plane. The frontal and the coronal plane generally divides the body into anterior and posterior parts. The anterior, that's the front, and the posterior, which is the back. The frontal or coronal plane divides the body into anterior and posterior. The line is drawn sideways, okay? Divides the two ears, and then would have the anterior and the posterior. There's also an image on your screen that displays the exactitude of a frontal or coronal plane. Let's take note of that. Okay, for the sections, we have generally three sections. We have the transverse section, we have the longitudinal section, and we have the oblique section. So there are three sections of the human body: transverse, longitudinal, and oblique section. So for this episode, we have been able to achieve the definition of anatomical position and what it means for a body to be placed in an anatomical position. We have been able to note what planes are and the different types of planes in the body system. The planes that divide the body into two left and right parts, the ones that divide the body into frontal or anterior and posterior. We also have planes that divide the body into superior and inferior. And then we have been able to establish that there are basically three sections of the body: the transverse, longitudinal, and oblique section, which would be further discussed in more details subsequently. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this episode. Do well to stay tuned and see you in the next episode.